Welcome to another episode where we look at history and culture through the lens of beer.
Always a good time.
Today we're traveling back in time to explore how beer brewing evolved from a local craft to a global industry. We'll be taking a look at the birth of the scientific brewer, international networks and knowledge transfer in Central European beer brewing, 1794-1895.
Sounds fascinating.
You might be surprised to learn that this transformation began much earlier than you think.
Oh, really?
And Central Europe, particularly the Habsburg monarchy and the German states, played a crucial role.
I see.
Did you know that brewers were some of the original international men of mystery, traveling the world to learn new techniques and even engaging in a bit of industrial espionage?
Wow, I didn't realize it went back that far.
And who knew that centuries ago, beer brewing was already embracing cutting-edge science and technology?
It's true. What we might think of as a traditional craft was actually at the forefront of scientific advancement in many ways.
Let's start with František Gontier Pupia. A pioneering brewer in Bohemia, he wrote The Art of Brewing in 1794.
Right.
A comprehensive guide that emphasized using science in brewing.
Pupia was a real trailblazer. His book was one of the first to advocate for using thermometers and beer scales.
Oh, wow.
Similar to a saccharometer,
Oh.
for more precise and consistent results. Before this, brewing was largely based on intuition and experience passed down through generations. By introducing these tools and measurements, Pupia helped brewers gain a deeper understanding of the brewing process and achieve better control over the final product.
So he wasn't just writing a recipe book.
No.
He was laying the foundation for a more scientific approach to brewing.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that Poupe wasn't working in isolation. He was actively engaged with other brewers and scientists of his time.
Really?
Referencing and debating with them in his writing. He was part of a growing international conversation about brewing best practices.
I see.
Which is fascinating considering this was well before the internet or even widespread fast travel.
That's amazing. It seems like brewers were already forming a global network centuries ago.
They were, and this exchange of knowledge became even more crucial with the rise of lager beer in the 1830s. Lager, which originated in Bavaria, was bottom fermented,
Okay.
meaning it was brewed at cooler temperatures. This made it more stable and better suited for transportation, which was essential for wider distribution.
So the popularity of lager really drove the need for larger scale production?
Yes.
And a more scientific approach to brewing.
Absolutely. A great example of this is the story of the Sedlmayrs,
Okay.
a father and son duo who transformed the Spaten brewery in Munich into a model of innovation.
I've heard about them. They were really ahead of their time, weren't they?
They were. Gabriel Sedlmayr Sr., the father,
Right.
embraced new technologies experimenting with steam engines in the brewery. And his son, Gabriel Sedlmayr Jr., took it even further. He even supported the development of artificial refrigeration, which was revolutionary for the brewing industry. Can you imagine trying to consistently brew lager beer before refrigeration was available?
I can't even imagine. That must have been incredibly challenging. What's really incredible is that in 1833, Gabriel Jr. embarked on a journey through Europe with other brewers, including Anton Drucker,
I see.
who went on to found the famous Austrian Drucker brewery. Their goal was to learn the secrets of British brewing, even resorting to sneaky tactics like using a hollow walking stick to collect beer samples. It's like something out of a spy movie.
It is. It's a great anecdote that shows how dedicated these brewers were to learning and improving their craft.
Right.
And this trip wasn't just about industrial espionage.
Oh.
It led to a lasting international network of brewers exchanging ideas and innovations.
So it was a blend of competition and collaboration. You were trying to outdo each other, but also learning from each other along the way.
Exactly. And this spirit of collaboration went hand in hand with the growing acceptance of science in brewing. Around this time, Carl Balling, a chemistry professor at the Prague Polytechnic, dedicated his research to brewing chemistry. He collaborated with brewers like Sedlmayr Sr. and published a monumental 3-volume work on fermentation chemistry.
So brewers were not only embracing new technologies, but also partnering with scientists to understand the underlying chemical processes of brewing.
Precisely. Brewing was no longer seen as a purely empirical craft, but as a field where science could lead to better beer and better business. It was becoming a true fusion of art and science.
That's fascinating. So we have Pupia laying the groundwork for scientific brewing,
right?
The Sedlmayrs embracing new technologies and building international networks, and Carl Balling bringing the rigor of academic research to the brewing world. It seems like all these pieces were coming together to set the stage for the global beer industry we know today.
You're absolutely right. And to see how these trends continued, we need to look across the Atlantic
Okay.
to the burgeoning brewing scene in the United States. That's where the story of Anton Schwarz comes in.
Okay, let's talk about Anton Schwarz. I know he was a student of Karl Balling and emigrated to the U.S. in 1868 during a period of rapid growth in American brewing.
That's right. He brought his Central European brewing knowledge and scientific training to a booming industry eager for innovation.
What kind of impact did he have on American brewing?
Well, for starters, he became the editor-in-chief of the American Brewer,
Oh,
which surprisingly was published in German at the time.
wow, I had no idea. That's incredible. So he was using this platform to share scientific insights with American brewers.
Exactly. He advocated for formal brewing education and shared his knowledge on a wide range of topics, from water chemistry to yeast management. He believed that science was essential for producing high-quality beer consistently.
It sounds like he was really trying to elevate the standards of American brewing.
He was, and he also conducted important research on brewing with adjuncts,
Okay.
like rice, which was a big deal for American brewers facing high barley prices and challenges working with American barley varieties. His research might even have contributed to the development of Budweiser.
No way. That's amazing. I never knew there was such a strong connection between a Bohemian brewer and one of America's most iconic beers.
It's a fascinating example of how international knowledge transfer and scientific innovation were shaping the brewing industry on a global scale. And that's not all. Schwarz didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk,
Right.
founding the United States Brewers Academy and the first scientific station for brewing.
So he was a true champion of brewing education and scientific advancement in America.
He was, and what's even more remarkable is that despite being based in the U.S., Schwarz remained connected to Central European brewing networks. He attended conferences, contributed to journals,
Wow.
and even facilitated the English translation of a key brewing textbook by a Bohemian brewer. He truly exemplifies the global nature that brewing had achieved by the late 19th century.
That's incredible. It really shows how brewers from all over the world were connected and sharing knowledge even back then.
It really does, and it's a testament to the enduring power of collaboration and the pursuit of brewing excellence.
So we've seen how brewers in Central Europe like Poupe, the Sedlmayrs, and Karl Balling helped lay the groundwork for a scientific approach to brewing, and how Anton Schwarz brought that knowledge and his passion for education to America, influencing the development of brewing on a global scale. It's amazing to see how these early innovators shaped the beer we enjoy today.
It really highlights the interconnected nature of brewing history. And speaking of connections, let's go back to that incredible journey Gabriel Sedlmayr Jr. took through Europe.
Yes, his Grand Brewing Tour. It sounds like something out of a movie. Imagine these young brewers from different countries traveling together, sampling beers, debating techniques, and even using a hollow walking stick to collect samples.
It's a fantastic story that captures the spirit of adventure and the thirst for knowledge that these brewers had. And it wasn't just about stealing secrets. The trip fostered a genuine exchange of ideas. For example, we know that John Muir, a brewer from Edinburgh, was already experimenting with bottom-fermented beers and even had Munich yeast sent to him.
So the flow of information wasn't just one way from Britain to Central Europe. There was a real back and forth happening.
Absolutely. Brewers across Europe were recognizing the value of learning from each other and sharing innovations.
It's fascinating to see how these early brewers were laying the groundwork for the global brewing community we have today. Their openness to new ideas is something that's still vital in the brewing world.
I agree. We see this all the time today with brewers from different countries collaborating on new recipes, sharing techniques, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible with beer.
It's a testament to the fact that brewing is both an art and a science with a rich history of innovation and collaboration. Speaking of scientific contributions, I'd love to hear more about what stood out to you from Poupe's book, The Art of Brewing.
One thing that really stirred me was how Poupe engaged with the brewing literature of his time. He referenced and critiqued so many other authors. It shows that even back then there was a lively debate about brewing techniques and practices.
So he wasn't afraid to challenge conventional wisdom and push for a more scientific approach?
Not at all. He was clearly a forward thinker, someone who believed in the power of science to improve brewing. And this is a theme we see throughout the paper with brewers like the Sedlmayrs and Anton Schwarz also pushing the boundaries of what was possible.
They weren't content with simply following tradition. They were constantly experimenting, innovating, and looking for ways to make better beer.
Exactly. And they weren't just tinkering around in their breweries. They were engaging with scientists, attending conferences, publishing in journals. They were actively shaping the future of brewing.
It's amazing to think about the lasting impact these individuals had on the brewing industry. They really helped to bridge the gap between traditional craft and modern science.
They did, and their legacy lives on in every glass of beer we enjoy today.
Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Anton Schwarz's experience in the United States. He arrived during a period of massive growth in American brewing.
It was a dynamic time. The U.S. was experiencing a wave of immigration, and many of those immigrants came from Germany and other beer-loving countries.
So they brought their brewing traditions and their thirst for lager beer with them.
Exactly, and that created a huge demand for lager, leading to the rapid expansion of breweries across the country.
Into this booming scene steps Anton Schwarz, armed with his scientific knowledge and his Central European brewing experience.
He was the perfect person at the perfect time. He quickly became a leading voice in the American brewing industry, advocating for scientific brewing practices and formal education.
I remember reading that he was the editor-in-chief of the American Brewer.
He was, and what's remarkable is that it was published in German for many years, reflecting the strong influence of German immigrants in the American brewing scene at the time.
That's incredible. So Schwarz was able to communicate directly with a large segment of American brewers in their native language, sharing his knowledge and insights about brewing science.
He was a bridge between European brewing traditions and the emerging American beer scene, helping to elevate the standards of American brewing.
And he didn't stop there. He founded the United States Brewers Academy and the first scientific station for brewing. What an incredible legacy.
Those institutions were groundbreaking. They provided brewers with the scientific knowledge and practical skills they needed to excel in their craft. Schwarz was laying the foundation for a new generation of scientifically trained American brewers.
I can't help but wonder if his work had a direct impact on the development of some of the iconic American beer styles we know today.
It's certainly possible. His research on adjuncts like rice was particularly relevant for American brewers facing high barley prices and challenges working with American barley varieties.
That's really interesting. So he was not only bringing European knowledge to America, but also addressing the specific challenges faced by American brewers.
Exactly. He was adapting his expertise to the American context and helping to shape the future of American brewing.
And even though he built a successful career in America, he never forgot his European roots.
That's right. He remained connected to the European brewing scene throughout his life, attending conferences, contributing to journals, and even facilitating the English translation of a key brewing textbook by a Bohemian brewer.
He was a true citizen of the brewing world, constantly bridging cultures and sharing knowledge.
He was a perfect example of the international collaboration that was so crucial for the development of brewing in the late 19th century.
It's inspiring to see how passionate these early brewers were about their craft and how committed they were to sharing their knowledge and pushing the boundaries of what was possible with beer.
They truly laid the groundwork for the diverse and vibrant world of beer we enjoy today.
It really makes you appreciate the history behind every beer you drink.
It does, and it's not just about the historical connection. It's about the values these brewers embodied, the pursuit of knowledge, the willingness to experiment,
Yeah,
the passion for making great beer.
absolutely. Those values are still at the heart of brewing today. Whether it's a small craft brewery or a large international company, the best brewers are always striving to learn, innovate, and push the boundaries of what's possible with beer.
They're carrying the torch that was lit by those early pioneers centuries ago.
And that's something we can all appreciate as beer lovers. The next time you try a new beer, think about the centuries of history and tradition that went into making it. Think about those brewers who traveled across continents, experimented with new techniques, and collaborated with scientists to create the beers we enjoy today.
Every sip is a connection to the past and a testament to the ingenuity and passion of brewers throughout history.
So as we wrap up this look at the birth of the scientific brewer, I'm curious, what's your biggest takeaway from all this research?
For me, it's the reminder that even something as seemingly simple as beer has a rich and complex history. It's a story of innovation, collaboration, and cultural exchange that spans centuries and continents.
I couldn't agree more. It's easy to take beer for granted, but when you delve into its history, you realize it's a truly global phenomenon, something that connects people across cultures and time.
And that connection is something worth celebrating.
Absolutely. So the next time you're enjoying a beer with friends, remember the fascinating journey is taken from those early brewers in Central Europe to your glass.
And raise a glass to those brewing pioneers who paved the way, the brewers who dared to experiment and share their knowledge with the world.
They're the reason we have such a diverse and delicious array of beers to enjoy today.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. And thank you for joining us on this journey through beer history. Don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating stories from the world of beer.